So I read yesterday that Danny Ings had cost West Ham £19 million in wages. It wasn't true. And it is one of the most misreported wages that there is at West Ham, which is Danny Ings is on over 100 grand a week. He's not. But that doesn't mean that he's been cheap. Far from it. It's actually on 85 grand a week. So he's cost us, if I've done my sums right, £13.5 million, right? £13.5 million. But that's just in wages. If you factor that in with the transfer fee, he's cost us more like £29 million. 28? Something like that. It's a really bad transfer. By any metric, this is a horrendous transfer. And I understand when people say that he's been good in the dressing room. But it's not I understand. I comprehend what those people are saying. I ain't paying £28 million for it. For a bit of personality in the dressing room. Come on. I'd get a kit man with a bit of personality. That's what I'd bloody do. Anyway. It's been an absolute hash of a transfer. And the wages were bad. So, look. Somebody did like a mock-up of Danny Ings' farewell. And they'd sort of crossed out, thanks for all the memories. And put cash in there. You can't really... I don't think you can have it both ways with Danny Ings. I haven't got anything particularly nasty to say about him. But he did have the opportunity... He's had 2 opportunities to leave, ironically enough, both back to Southampton. That's an okay transfer for Ings to Southampton. He's played there before, and he's from Winchester. And that's not far. That's a little skip down the M3 and the M27. It's close. It's half hour away, right? That's not a bad little thing, but he turned it down twice. And it wasn't so as he could stay at West Ham and play football. He knew he wasn't going to play football. He was told by Lopetegui, you're not really going to play this season. And he thought, now I'll stick it out. It's about money. So, look, if he's going to be the recipient or the focus of a few memes, then that's that. It is because that's really what the transfer has been about. Really, really bad. But bad judgment all round, by the way. Bad judgment from the club for bringing him in. Bad judgment on Danny Ings or his agent's part if they thought he was going to come to West Ham and play first-team football. They thought he was... he left Aston Villa because he was not suited to a one-striker up-front system. Well, why did he join West Ham then? David Moyes is never going to play that way. So, anyway. Which sort of brings us to the Michail Antonio stuff, really. And West Ham are in a bit of a tricky situation with this one because they've got to be seen to be doing the right thing. That's only reasonable, bearing in mind that Antonio was involved in a near fatal accident. And let's be fair, they've got an awful lot wrong recently. Look at how upset Lucas Fabianski was that he didn't get onto the pitch to say goodbye. All right, okay. So the club got a lot wrong. Maybe that in itself was perhaps Potter should have done a bit better on that one. But between the club and Potter, they conspired to sort of not do particularly well with the players that were leaving. The biggest issue is Aaron Cresswell not getting a testimonial, of course, but I think the whole thing was handled pretty badly. So I guess because that was handled badly, they want to at least be seen to be doing the right thing for Michail Antonio. At least I hope that's what it is. Because there is a separate way of looking at it, which is we're still so unsure of what we're going to do in terms of striker and striker next season that we're just trying to almost insulate ourselves by keeping Antonio there. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it would be very keeping in West Ham. You've only got to look at West Ham's recent history. Whatever. I was going to say last 5 years. What about since Sullivan and Gold took over? Horrendous. I can't remember. Whatever the statistic was, it's a horrendous number of strikers that basically have pretty much failed. So it wouldn't surprise you if actually we're managing to muck that up as well. The way we're not managing to get a striker in for the summer. But we'll wait and see. As I've said on multiple occasions now, I'm nervous for the summer transfer window because I'm nervous about basically 2 rookies in Potter and McCauley being able to bring good players in. Once we bring in a couple of good players, I'll chill out. I'll know they can do it, but that's fine. But So I don't really know what's going on with Antonio here, but it gives us a couple of things to ponder, really. So, talk about one misrepresented wage in Danny Ings. Michail Antonio earns about £5 million a year, just under £5 million a year. And Antonio's representatives, they've told the club directly, and they've let it be known that he has other options. Well, that's absolutely fine, and I don't mind him doing that. That's part of a negotiating technique. Absolutely fine. West Ham, on the other hand, are saying, "Well, hold on a second. We didn't know. Nobody knew if Antonio was ever going to play again. We didn't know if he was going to make it to Christmas. For goodness' sake, everyone was massively relieved that he was okay." Mark Noble called him a freak of nature, absolute freak of nature, Antonio. And it's miraculous that he's got back to the point where he is, that he can even walk. There's your miracle, number one. Number two, he's doing light training, brilliant. But I don't know whether he's going to be able to play at the top level anymore. So I don't think, having criticised the club for all the other stuff, I don't think it's unreasonable what West Ham have gone in with. And because they didn't announce him with that group of players that was leaving, everyone said, "Oh, no Antonio in that list. Ings, Cresswell, Fabianski, Soufal, no Antonio." So I think they're trying. But I don't blame them. Because, as we understand it, Antonio wants another year the same as what he's had. So whatever it is, another year at 95 grand a week, or whatever it might be. Well, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. That's a top level player. There's more than you think, but there's not. The majority of the players in the Premier League are not on £100,000 a week. They're on less than that. That's a good player, right? 100 grand a week is a good player. So I can totally understand the club thinking, well, hold on a second, let's just wait and see here. Would you mind, this is pretty much what's happened, would you mind a little shorter term one? I don't know what that term is. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but in many respects it doesn't matter. It's the same. Can we give you a nominal fee? This stuff I'm just making up now because I just don't know the figures. Can we give you 10 grand a week and then 80 every time you play? Maybe it's that. I don't think that's unreasonable. And then once you prove yourself, then we'll tear that up and then we'll put you back on the wage that you were on. I don't think that's... I think that's probably quite wise to do that. And I'm not sure that West Ham are... Whilst I thought we weren't sentimental enough for the reasons that I've already explained with some of the other players, I don't want to go too far with the sentimentality that we cripple ourselves in terms of bringing in what should be a really, really good player on that sort of wage. So I think this is a tough one. I think the negotiations are very much being played out in public. And I don't believe that there are a queue of clubs lining up to give Antonio a year on the sort of wages that he was on before. I don't blame them for pretending that that's the case. And maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Who? I guess he did have that offer from Saudi that time. Do you remember? He didn't want to go. And why would he now? He's what you've heard from Antonio as how he appreciates friends and family and just the opportunity to live again. I can't imagine he's going to want to leave that all behind and just go. He's already a rich man. I can't imagine he's going to want to leave all that behind just to go and earn some money. Which brings you to which English clubs are going to pay him close to £100,000 a week for the year. I can't think of one. Maybe you can think of one. I don't know. I can't think of a single one. And it's a shame it's got to this that you're almost thinking, well, the club maybe you're going to have to call Antonio's bluff here. But I personally wouldn't shift too much from what we're doing. I think in this instance we probably are doing the right thing. Because it was almost tragic what happened. It was bloody worrying, really dangerous. And I think by the club saying, look, let's give you a chance. Let's give you a chance to get back to it. But if he doesn't, and if Antonio can't get back to peak fitness, and he ends up not really playing again at any significant level, then that's okay as well. It's not okay for him, but I mean, he's okay. He's alive. He's fit to an extent. Just because you're not fit enough to play Premier League football doesn't mean you're not fit, to live a good and healthy life. So I think if that happens, then West Ham could at least say, well, we offered him the opportunity. So, yeah, look, I don't mind. I don't mind that West Ham are doing this. I'd actually like to see him sign a deal. I would. But if I was to sign a deal, ideally, here's what I would like to happen next season. I'd like us to sign another striker. I'd like us to keep Fulkrug as well. And I'd almost like Antonio to be the third choice striker. I think that would be good. I would like that. Not sure Antonio wants that. But he's 35. And he's 35 just after the back of a near fatal car accident. When his leg was... I don't know, listen, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but his leg was not in a good way. We didn't know if he's going to walk again or anything. But I think if you're going to... So I think that's reasonable. The third choice striker at West Ham. Super sub. He was always decent as a super sub. Beast mode Antonio, super sub, love it. Absolutely. But if you are going to do that and you are looking at Antonio, because we have to, because anything else other than that means West Ham are really in trouble. For next season, if we're going to do anything in the Premier League, we're going to need to get the striker situation sorted. So if that is the case, and he is going to be our third choice striker, then surely he's got to be paid accordingly.